So feel fully in control of your life. The reason why you don't feel fully in control, says your chart, is because in your decision making, your heart and your psychic ability is not being consulted. And so as a result, you end up losing control. Hello, dear friend, and welcome back to another interesting week in the explosive year of 2017. This week, we transition into the month of June, and we also transition out of an old way of thinking and into a new level of thinking. And Sensei says this is finally you catching up with the person you really are. From my smartphone to yours, keep streaming for your weekly Namaste Today. Welcome to Namaste Today, a spiritually nutritious way to begin your day. I'm your heartfelt host and the Sensei to serious joy, Christopher Witecki. Welcome back, my friend and earthly neighbor. Namaste. Well, we're into the season of Gemini, and we're moving on to the month of June. And Gemini in June are usually very calm. Usually when we get to our intellectual state of awareness, that's what Gemini is, the I think state of awareness, or step 5. Most of the time, when we get to this state of awareness, our mind can finally cool down. It's almost like our mind has been crazy all year dealing with stuff, and finally we can kind of cool off. But in 2017, everyone on Earth has gone through so much personal change. I think in this particular Gemini season, our minds are having a lot of catching up to do. Now, last week would have been any sort of mind-blowing situation, but this week, things really come into a nice harmony and a nice synergy. I argue you're going to find a new attitude that allows you to coast through the rest of the year, and you're going to begin to feel the new you. So in our upcoming segment next week, I'm going to talk you through the 5 days and how things will progress, and later, in our tea time, I'll go through all 12 signs and the new you that I feel is being born. But first, let's take a look at today's moods and your Zodiac weather. This Zodiac weather is from Monday, May 29th to Friday, June 2nd, 2017. Looking at your 5-day moodcast. Well, the week actually begins very strong and just builds up to be stronger and stronger until finally on Saturday, which is not pictured here, we have a breakthrough. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's sunny and super loving. The moon is in Leo, and step 8 rules the day, allowing you to make some decisions about what not to think about. On Tuesday, it's sunny and super active. Your mind may go carried away, especially with creativity. On Wednesday, it's sunny and manifesting. You finally find the new attitude to hold in your mind. And on Thursday, it's sunny and healing as you find intellectual integrity and you begin to really get your story and character lined up. And then on Friday, it's sunny and growing as we expand into a new thinking territory. Well, this week we are really focusing on building up this new attitude. So in our next segment this week, I'm going to talk you day by day on how that happens. Taking a peek at the upcoming week, I coined this week a new way of thinking. And thinking is what Gemini is all about. How we think, what perspective we come from, our thoughts, our conversation, our inner dialogue, our outer dialogue. When we compose and draft things like documents and letters and poetry and music, this is all happenings of the mind. But on a fundamental level, what Gemini energy is our comparison part of us being human. So the part of us that likes to compare the new life to the old life, or the first husband to the second husband, right? That's what Gemini is. That's what the twins are. The twins are two different minds that work together to compare and contrast. And it's from this comparison that we base a lot of our big judgment in life. Now, Gemini is literally in June, really halfway through the year. So it's like literally by this time in the year, we're always comparing the first half of the year to the second half of the year. You know, looking, what did I get accomplished this year? And oh God, do I have time to get what I want done the rest of the year? So Gemini is that comparison. And usually what we're comparing is this year to last year. Last summer we did this. The summer before that we did that, right? But this year I say there's a whole new way of thinking, which means I believe we're going to come up with new things to compare. All right. One of the fundaments of the comparison is going to be the new life to the old life. Over the last few months, we have gone through some stickiness of coming into the strength of our character, represented by Uranus and Aries. We're expanding what fairness is, the definition of fairness, which is Jupiter in Libra. We have Saturn in Sagittarius, which is us coming to terms with our beliefs and figuring out what our story is. So we've been coming to the head of several changes, and they've all kind of turned around the corner here in the last couple of weeks. And here we find ourselves in the comparison season. So I think we're going to really come out of, first of all, old thinking. That's what last week was about. Last week was about showing you your thoughts and how you used to think and the old voices and the old conversations and the old excuses, right? Like all that sort of old thinking. And this week, I think we break through and we build really a whole new framework of our thoughts. This can be a new attitude, a new logic, or we may just come from a whole new perspective. Like I used to come from the victim perspective, or I used to come from that perspective, and we might come from a whole new perspective. But by the end of the week, I predict a whole new way of thinking. Now, the good news is this week will be somewhat gentle, thank Goddess. It is all about being in our mind, and it looks like the rest of the planets are cooperating. In fact, it looks like several times through the week, the universe tries to nudge us into a new way of thinking. I would say it's a gentle nudge. I'll give you, it's a yod and a grand trine. But we are being kind of nudged into thinking differently. So this is definitely a week to go ahead and, have conversations with people you don't normally have conversations with. Go to resources for information you don't usually go to. It's like any kind of like fresh pond to dip your mind into is a good thing right now, because even if it's the wrong pond, you still turn around and compare it to the pond you were in, and you learn a lot about the pond you're in. So it's really good to ponder and go wandering around intellectually. Now, walking you through the week, emotionally this week is pretty gentle. The moon starts in Leo for the first couple of days, and so we're really based in our hearts, and emotions are based in our hearts. And depending on how your heart is doing, and if your heart is happy with where it's going or not, I would imagine that that's part of the story, that your heart is not happy with how things have been and your heart wants something else. So that emotional twist or emotional drama this week, again, is probably there to curb your thinking and start thinking differently, not to get caught up in the old. And then we go into Virgo, where we see a lot of reality, a lot of scientific measurement, a lot of facts. So that kind of like really forces us to think literally, right? So we kind of have this sharpening up. And then the moon goes into Libra on the weekend, where we kind of put the final polish on our thoughts. And this whole process is building this new intellectual path. In fact, Saturday actually looks like it's some sort of a really interesting day. It's a very powerful day. I actually think it's going to be cloudy and passionate. Chance of showers, because you might have a release on Saturday. But Saturday is kind of the graduation point, so I want to let you know, like, you may not be clear on what the new way of thinking is until Saturday. It's just you got to step out of your old thinking. So let's go over the week. Monday, Sunday, sunny and very loving. Step 8 rules the day on this day. So basically on Monday, it's kind of a fresh start. Okay, I've decided to put this behind me, and I want to go think this way now. So I think we're turning our back on the past on Monday, and our heart is leading the way. Now, the North Node goes to step 27, Leo. And North Node is pointing, the universe pointing us what to go, and that is, what should we act on? What should our heart act on? That's the big question mark for the Gemini consciousness, is what should my heart go for? All right, so that's part of what Monday's exploration is. On Tuesday, it gets very active. If there's a day for hyper-mindedness or saying too much, it's probably Tuesday. Step 9 rules the day. And the moon is in Leo. And what's interesting about Tuesday is we have a yod, where basically God with the moon and Jupiter is pointing to Neptune. So this is one of the days where God kind of nudges us. There's a spiritual way and there's an ego way. Tuesday may be a day where you actually have the old mind come out again, and you have to go, no, we're done with this. So it's possible that your old mind and your old ego takes over, but you do learn. Wednesday is when we finally start to get some balance, and things really kind of settle. Step 10 rules a day. But there's a grand trine in fire on this day, which really emotionally unites on Wednesday as we manifest this new character of who we are and also the story we were born to live. And this all unites with the moon in Leo. So we feel this empowerment. We feel the big picture. We feel the potential. We feel the enthusiasm. And I really think that's another nudge that the universe is doing this week to kind of get you thinking along your dreams and hopes and not in the past. Thursday, it's a sunny day, but we're going to do some healing. Saturn and Mercury Saturn and Venus come to a direct trine on this day, and it's a spiritual trine. What this means is on Thursday, you're really going to see the spiritual side of things, what your soul needed to see, a new perspective. And the weird thing is the moon's in Virgo, so things are very real, and it may be from things being so real that you're kind of forced to find your faith. So Thursday may have a little growing pains, even though it's a healing day. And then Friday, it's literally sunny and growing. So we basically build this foundation on Wednesday with the passion and this new way of thinking. I think our passion on Wednesday sets a foundation, and then we're kind of off on our spiritual journey and seeing where that takes us for the rest of the week. And then the interesting thing also on Friday is that Mercury goes to step 22 Taurus, and step 22 is the breakthrough step. So it looks like it will be on Friday that we finally have the real epiphany, the real understanding, the real clarity of where this is going. But still, the universe has one more surprise for us the next day on Saturday. So it's a calm week where we're building up and we're being nudged back and forth. But your breakthroughs come Friday or Saturday, maybe even by Sunday if there's any drama or any release you have to do emotionally. Now, a big part of the story going on right now is that this week, with Saturn and Uranus and other planets and Venus, this week we are feeling the new us. So that's the topic of this week's tea time. I'm going to help for all 12 signs. Go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our daily tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is feeling the new me. And that, I think, is really what's going on in the background in all this changing of thinking. That there is a new us coming forward this week, and that's really represented by Venus. Actually, Venus in Aries is the last planet left behind now that's kind of opening us up to all the work we did in the Aries transit. And the work we did in the Aries transit was this new character. Uranus is still in Aries, pushing for us to continue striving harder and higher, but we haven't fully caught up to the new us yet. Venus is what we open up to, and as it climbs up through Aries, we're opening up really inside of us to what this means to be this new us, this new character. In fact, looking at the week, there's two pivotal days with Venus. Thursday is when Saturn and Venus actually trine. So at that point, the story you were born to live becomes very clear, and it becomes clear with the character you are becoming. In fact, what it is that you really start to feel the character you're becoming, and you tie it into your story. You tie it into where things are going. You start to be able to see the next chapter. So the hero starts to understand the quest that the hero is on, and that's around Thursday. And I think that's highly tied into the new thinking that we're trying to do. A lot of this thinking change is that we're going to come from a different character. We're going to be on perhaps a different story, and that's why a lot of the dialogue has to be rewritten. Now, the other fascinating day of the week will actually be on Saturday, and on Saturday, that's when Venus will actually conjunct or conjoin Uranus, which means we'll be opened up not just to the truth, but how far this goes. So you'll have this really huge perspective. And Saturday will be a day where you might have to open up to something that you've never opened up to before. You might be happy that you're opening up to it. Maybe you weren't ready until now, but you really start to feel who you are and the new character, feeling that new you on Saturday. So the whole week is kind of a tug and pull, I think, in the sense of, you know, your old thinking takes you down a certain path, and then you're like, no, I'm a new person, I'm going a new direction. That forces new thinking, and then that, well, then what kind of does this mean for my character? You know, so it's a lot of Gemini compare and contrast, but what we're comparing is really this old character. So I thought for each of the 12 signs, I would help you along on this journey and talk about where there's new thinking happening, and where that ends up changing your life, what you're opening up to in your life at the same time, the Venus-Uranus conjunction. And as always, let's begin with the air eye. Aries, they literally are, again, they always are kind of running the human race first. They are the purebreds of the human race, and they are literally working on their attitude and thinking, okay? That's what they're changing. So they're going to have an absolute change of mind, a change of dialogue, could be a change of tone. They probably have some of the most profound changes of thinking that we'll see out of all of our brothers and sisters. And this changed thinking is essential to you accepting this new character you've been working on so long. So the thinking almost puts the nail in the coffin, bad expression, but the thinking is really the last peg for you to put together this new character. And really Aries, out of all the signs, or Aries risings, you can look for your rising sign too, are going to really feel reborn by the end of this week, in my opinion. Now the Taurus, with Gemini, this is their annual bookkeeping season. So Tauruses are working on their value, their self-worth, and they're going to come to thinking about what their worth is in a whole new light. And what this is tied to for them is coming into finally feeling their higher faith. And I say thank Goddess for that, because this season's faith building was one of the hardest. It was like Mount Everest inside of me, I swear to God. So we're going to feel that come to fruition, and it's going to raise our self-esteem and confidence, which Tauruses need right now. Geminis, this is your birthday period, and Gemini rising, this is your rebirth of your ego period. You're going to be thinking differently about who you are and who you're not, your character, what actions you should take, what actions you shouldn't take, who you are and who you're not. And once you're clear on that, this is going to solidify for you coming into your real social calling in society. And that's where you've been working on all week, is where do you belong? Where's home? Where should you go? Cancers, you are in Gemini working on faith. And strangely enough, Cancers are very emotional creatures, but their faith is based on their thoughts. Okay, so they're going to think differently about their faith, and that's going to solidify. That's the new thinking differently about faith. And what this does is really put the final pieces together for your future and your legacy, where it is your story is going. That also means career for Cancers who are out there still career climbing. Leos, you're going to be much more clear finally on your social calling. So you're going to really figure out, this is my place. This is where I be. These are my peeps, so to speak, and these are not my peeps. And by coming in that clear social calling, this is actually the piece Leos needed to feel strong about their path. And I know it's kind of shallow, right? Because isn't that funny? They need the society's buy-in, but no, they needed to know they fit in somewhere. They like to be a light. So once you know you fit in, you're clear on your purpose, you're clear on the meaning of your life. Virgos, you're getting clear on career. This is the transit where Virgos plan their future. They use this Gemini stuff to plan their futures. And you're going to have a future direction that you finally come into, and a clarity and a new way of thinking about your future. And that new way of thinking about your future turns into self-trust. This is the plan that the Virgo needed to be able to get started or go ahead and get uncomfortable for a moment in order to change their life. So this triggers a whole new way of trusting yourself, and that gives you the ability to move forward. Working on that all season. Libras are going to come clear on a new belief. So Libras are going back and forth about what has meaning, what doesn't have meaning. That's their compare and contrast. But this is actually, by determining what is valuable in your thoughts and meaning, you become finally clear on where you stand in relationships. Where you stand in relationship with yourself, where you stand in relationship with others. So it's kind of like Libras are coming up with the constitution of their own inner Congress. And once the constitution is placed, they know exactly how to deal with their allies, right, and enemies. Scorpios are going back and forth about trust in Gemini. Do they trust themselves? Do they not? Do they trust that person? Do they not trust that person? This is also about sexual intimacy and connection. Big questions for Scorpios. But once you're clear on what you trust and what you don't trust, this is going to give you a lot of clarity about the strength of your daily life. Like, you can now start to count on your daily life, count on your performance, really build something around all that hard work you always do. Sagittarius is finally going to get clear on where they stand in relationships. So when Sagittarius go through Gemini, they're actually comparing, contrasting relationships back and forth. Is this working? Is this not working? That sort of thing. And once they have that clear, that's actually going to get them solid about what they want in love. So I think Sagittarius have not been able to go after the love they want because they weren't clear on their relationships, is what the planets are suggesting. And now they're going to go, okay, now that I'm clear on relationships, I know what I can aim for with my heart. I'm not going to end up screwing it up in my relationships, right? Capricorns, you're getting clear on the day-to-day life you want to live, the health you need, any kind of healing that's necessary, getting clear on the healing, getting clear on the work life, getting clear on what's the day in and day out of this goat on the mountain. And what this actually does is build your emotional security to be rock solid. So you've been building emotional security all month, all year long. It's been an uphill journey up the mountain, trying to feel more secure. And really, once you get your lifestyle in order, that final piece of security, I think, is in place. Aquarius is... You in Gemini actually think about love. So Aquarius is actually, when it comes to love, they're comparing and contrasting. You know what I mean? Like, which is why I think they're kind of detached in love, is because they compare and contrast a lot. But you're going to get clear on what your thoughts are about love, not just love romantically, but what you love, what you need, what your heart needs for fulfillment. And once you're clear on what your heart needs and you're thinking differently about what your heart needs, this is actually what frees your mind to no longer be in this dictator mode and instead be in the strength mode. So you kind of move from dictator to wise once you know what your heart wants. And that makes sense spiritually. And then Pisces. Pisces, you are getting together emotional security. So for Pisces, again, they're a water sign, but when it comes to their home and their emotions, they're very intellectual about it. They're making this and that. They're moving around chess pieces, basically. Basically, they're deciding what fishbowl to be in, right? Once they decide, they jump in. So you're kind of coming up with what makes you feel secure, what doesn't make you feel secure in life. And once you have that in shape, then your financial security finally comes into strength. So a lot of the teeter-tottering of abundance and money and being profitable was that you were emotionally unsettled. And of course, you can't manifest when you're in that state of being, right? So I think we're all feeling the new us. This new us comes from what I was describing in the second part. Now we're thinking about the second part. And this new us is what we're going to kind of champion with, I think, going through the summer. We're working on our thoughts right now, but next when the sun goes into Cancer, we'll work through our feelings about it. And then the sun goes into Leo, and we're going to finally feel the birth, especially that solar eclipse, of this new self. So we're past the hard stuff, and we're moving on to now the polishing and the carrying out of this new character. But I think the new character becomes clear this week, my friend. All right, well, speaking of clarity, if you don't know, I have come out with a new edition of my Serious Joy Personal Sensei service. We now have an online app, something I worked on for 3 years. It's finally live. You can come check it out for $3.99 for the first month. That's my new thing. I'll give you a whole month for $3.99 to check it out. I have a new online app that literally breaks down your day using your own astrology and my own step astrology approach as well. You also get a free Love and Lust report, and there's more cool features to come. So if you'd like to try it out, please come on down and give it a try. It's at SeriousJoy.com. All right, my friend, that's all I have for this week. Remember, if you want to rub elbows with your spiritual colleagues, you can come to our club on Facebook. It's namastetoday.club. I will see you next week with a new, fresh attitude myself. And until then, remember, I love you, and live, love, be.